This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And here we are on September the 22nd, 2022. And folks, I have a lovely guest on the show with me today. She's very lovely, and Quentin Tarantino loves her too. Folks, I give you the absolutely beautiful Laura Cayouette. Did I say that right?
Cayouette.
Huh?
Cayouette.
Cayouette. Okay.
We're going Coyote. I'll answer. I mean, it's not an easy name.
Well, you know what? I don't want to be disrespectful, but you know what? I'm so happy to have you on here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, good to see you too. Good to see you too. We got some rain going on out there right now, but what's it like where you are?
Hot. Very hot.
Well, that would be you, especially when you're rocket.
Yeah, it's like 95 degrees out. It's pretty. Today's like one of the warmest days of the year so far.
Maybe it's from all the love around.
It could be. I mean, I'm in New Orleans. It's a very loving place.
There you go. There you go. You know what? I was talking to you beforehand about pronouncing your name, your last name, and I'd never seen that. Where does that originate?
It's a French Canadian name that they've Americanized the spelling. Most people in Louisiana spell it Caillouet, but mine is Cayouette.
Mm-hmm.
Cayouette. But they wrote it like you sounded out, Cayouette. So
Can't help everybody.
well, it still doesn't. Yeah, still people don't know how to pronounce it, but people here do. But it's spelled funny here.
Well, you know what? My name's Greg, but you never believe how many people, including in my own family, if they send me a Christmas card, they'll have 2 G's at the end instead of 1.
Yep.
So, I mean, if the card's got money in it, I'm not going to argue with them.
I just did a signing convention, and I haven't done many of those, but I learned at pretty much the first one that even if they say their name is John, that could be Jon. If they say their name is Kim, that could be Kym. You just have to ask. You just have to ask.
Well, tell me, this is a question I ask all my guests, because I'm about to do 2 conventions, starting one a week from today, in Toronto. So
now, what are you doing at these conventions?
Well, I'm assisting one of my guests at one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm doing another one. I just basically go and give my business cards out, meet some of the people, and buy autographs, and probably spend more money than I probably should. It was actually one of my guests, a Canadian actress, Lisa Langlois, invited me to my first one, and I just turned 50 in July, so I lived here in New Brunswick my whole life, and I'd never been very far. So once I went to Toronto to that convention, I got the bug. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask, what's the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Oh gosh, at this one I just did, I signed 3 baseballs, and I did not have one photo from For Love of the Game, which is the baseball movie I was in.
Uh-huh.
I did not have one. I learned my lesson. I'm now going to have the For Love of the Game photos. I promise. Next time I'll have them. But yeah, I signed 3 different baseballs, and I didn't know that was coming. Let me think what else. I mean, a lot of it's just the photos that you bring, and then occasionally people will bring you posters, DVDs, that kind of thing. But I've only done, this was my sixth one. I had done 5 of them before the pandemic, and then I didn't do any for a number of years. And this was my first one post-pandemic. Well, if we're in post-pandemic, post the worst of the pandemic.
I work as a COVID cleaner at the hospital, and I'm going to tell you, I hate doing the terminal cleans because you get a gown up, mask up, and it's funny because a lot of the nurses just walk right in there.
Oh no.
I'm like, you know, and I'm like, do
No,
we?
there's still not, like 350 people will die today, so I'm not fooling with it.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know, is this room infected, or are
I
you
would
guys
just
just
err
too?
on the side of caution. I would just let
Well, they
them do
got, yeah, like, it's a constant complaint for us in the housekeeping at the hospital, which I'm part of. You know, it's like, you know, if we're gowning up, why aren't they gowning up?
I wouldn't worry about it. I would just be happy I have my gowns and just go with that. I would be like, okay, y'all do your thing your way.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I do that, and but but yeah, 3 baseballs, and what team are you on?
Well, I mean, you know, that movie, I can't even remember the name of the team that Kevin Costner played for. And then my character was masseuse in Florida, I think, when they were coming to training camp. So I was whatever, the team masseuse at training camp.
I saw For the Love of the Game at the theater when it came out, you know. What
Me,
what
only
we
I was wearing a long gown.
what was it like working with Kevin Costner?
Oh, really great. He and I were already friends before that, so it was a little less terrifying to have to do the massage scene. You know, it's a kind of an intimate thing to lay your hands on somebody for 8, 10 hours a day. Um, so he had approval over who would have that job because it is a, you know, it's an intimate scene. But we were already friends for years before that, so it wasn't as scary, and we were able to talk about it as we were doing it. So it made it, you know, it wasn't as intimidating as if I had gone in there and been like, oh my God, it's Kevin Costner, and then had to, like, you know, rub his parts. You know, so
You know what? I've only had a massage once in my life, and it was actually when I was in Toronto, back in 2019. It was only because for the first time ever, I woke up one morning with a stiff neck.
oh, don't you hate it?
Yep. And my guest who I always go see when I'm down there, she suggested I go to massage parlor. And I went there, and it was great. It worked on my neck, I'll tell you that. But I couldn't turn my head in one direction. So,
Bad when it goes bad.
yep. And the first time that's ever happened. So, um, I never done it since, just never had time. It is relaxing when you do get it, but I needed it then in emergency. I needed to be able to turn my head.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, before we get into your movies a little bit here, I would love to get a little bit of your background and what led to you getting into the business.
Well, I have a little different story than average because I wasn't one of those theater kids. You know, I just at that convention, I was in my hometown where I went to high school, and a couple of the guys from my high school came by to visit, and one of them said to me, he said, "Now, correct me if I'm not wrong, but you had absolutely no interest in this in high school, right?" And I said, "Yes, that's true," because they never saw me in a play. I did do one musical my senior year during the summer. My brother was part of a city theater company called Teens on Stage in Columbia, Maryland. And I did do one summer of Godspell with them. But you know, I hadn't, it was never on my radar. And mostly because I first of all, I didn't really understand that people made money doing this. Like when you turn on the TV and you're watching Flip Wilson or, I Dream of Jeannie or whatever, did it ever occur to you those people were being paid? It just didn't go through my head, So I don't think I understood that football players were being paid. Like I just didn't, you're a kid and you think whatever your dad does, that's what people do for money, So, and my dad wasn't a baseball player, and he wasn't an actor. So I thought people who worked in offices and, worked for the government or, worked for military, I thought those were jobs and everything else was things you do for fun. And so I didn't really get it that it was a career until I was older. And then the other thing is that I was very clear that the type of storyteller I was a writer. I knew I was a writer very young. I knew I was a writer, and that was how I was telling my stories. So I didn't know that I was an actor. And I had gotten my master's degree in creative writing and English literature, and I was getting ready to start my doctorate when, life is what happens when you're making other plans. And so I suddenly left my very stable future that I had in front of me. I was a homeowner and everything. I was driving a 4-door car, like the whole 9 yards. And I was going to be, professor and author. And I was going to write during my hiatus. And I don't know, it all made sense to me. And it seemed like really big goals to me. And then I ended up leaving all that behind to go study acting in New York. And I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and got a really good education, because if you're going to do something you never planned on doing, you should figure out what it is first. So out of respect for the craft, I studied and did a lot of off Broadway stuff. And then moved to LA and studied some more there and started working. And I've been working for somewhere between 25 and 30 years now.
Not bad considering you're only 39.
Well, I was very old when I started. This is a game for the young, and especially with women. Most women back then, I started in the 80s. So most women's careers back then were over by the time you turn 30.
Isn't that sad?
Oh,
It
no,
is
it's
sad.
actually criminal. It's not sad. It's angering. It's
Yeah,
to be illegal, and it
because
was.
I consider it a delight, like when I go to a movie and I see somebody like your Meryl Streep or your Diane Keaton, still or Helen Mirren, still slugging it out, it is criminal, and I do agree.
Well, in England, they're very different about that. And you see, people like Judi Dench and Maggie Smith and all are totally allowed to age on camera. They don't have to do all this stuff or, the stuff or, they don't have to do all that stuff to be projecting some version of youth, when what their characters are not youthful characters. The characters they're playing are complicated and intelligent and vengeful, and they're playing people, not dolls. So in England, for some reason, they don't care as much about how the women age here as they do how they age as a character, what they bring to the table as an actor. And so it's unfortunate, but I do see in television, I see movement in the right direction. I do see in television we're heading toward having more women over 30, more women over 40, even more women over 50. We just had a box office weekend last weekend where the #1 box office draw was a 57-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
The Warrior King, or the
Woman King.
Yes.
I hadn't seen Woman King. I did go see Pearl. And it's funny because an ex, Mia Goth, of course, is a young woman, but she also plays the role of Pearl, where she done up as an elderly woman. So she kind of crosses both boundaries.
Oh, wow.
Oh, she was both characters in X. And I didn't know this until after I saw the movie. So I was like, okay.
That's cool.
Do you know where I'm located here in New Brunswick, Canada?
I will tell you, Canada to me is too cold to explore.
Why?
I have to be where it's warm. I just have to be where I went to Detroit one time in December and thought, that's it. That is it. I'm done. This is as far as I go. I don't have it in me. I'm too thin, I think. I just don't have.
I'm gonna tell the conventions to bring you up here.
Oh no.
I'm gonna say bring her up here and give her a snowsuit.
All right. We'll see.
We
We'll
we
see.
we don't have any snow on the ground. We got some rain going on out there right now, but yeah, but I find it funny. And one of my guests in California that I'm still very much in touch with, I laugh at her all the time of what she finds cold and what we find cold.
Oh no, we have all these memes here about Louisianans because there was just one passing around last week of a person in a beanie cap and a sweater and a scarf, and it said Louisianans when it gets under 75. And honestly, it's a little bit true.
You know what? How rare it is we see 75.
Oh,
What?
see, I
What?
have to be warm.
What?
Warm.
Look at me, look at me, short sleeve,
Uh,
wearing my Pulp Fiction shirt
I
here.
see that. I see that.
Yeah, I got a couple Pulp Fictions. I didn't have a Kill Bill or Django Unchained shirt, although I got the Blu-rays here though.
Oh, cool.
I should have dug those out for this, but I didn't have the chance during my running around trying to get here in time.
All very fine films.
Yeah. But you know what? I gotta say, I love it, even though it's brief. Love it when you appear as Rocket. I gotta say, you look stunning in that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Do you still get Michael Madsen to clean the messes up?
Well, he and I did another movie after that where
I
again he
know.
one side of the bar and I'm on the, yeah, with Hell Ride.
Yep.
Sort of reprised our roles in a different way in Hell Ride. I would love to work with Michael again. I love Michael. He's great.
So is he still willing to clean up the shitty water?
He was never willing to. He was never willing to. He hated that scene.
Oh my goodness. I love your getup in that. I'd be going back to that bar.
I have a fun factoid about that outfit.
Sure.
So, they had me do like 3 fittings for the lingerie that I was going to wear in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's a miracle how they're able to find a suit for you in, like a 2-hour fitting, no problem, and even alter it and all that. But when it's bra and panty, they have to have like 1,000 fittings and take 1,000 photos. And okay. But anyway, so I did 3 fittings for the lingerie. I tried on all sorts of crazy outfits. And he wasn't happy still. He still had no idea what I was going to be wearing. And it's the day I'm shooting. And so the wardrobe lady said, at this point, if you have something you like, just bring it because we're sort of at a loss. So when I got to the set, they had pulled another like 20, 25 outfits for me to try. And they said, did you bring anything? And I said, well, I brought this halter that I crocheted and macrameed by hand. And I showed it to him and they said, well, we'll just take a photo of it and stick it in the pile. So back then we used Polaroids. So they took, about 25 photos of me, including the one of me and the halter I made by hand, and stuck them all in one pile. Didn't say anything to Quentin, just handed him the pile. And he pulled that one out and said, that's what she's wearing. And it was the halter I made. So that is a halter I made by hand.
You know what? That's going to be a massive compliment to you. That was the one that you made.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought
wow.
that was pretty cool because, film is forever. And so now that little halter I made myself is forever immortalized.
There you go. Yeah, I love it. One of the things I loved about the 2 Kill Bill movies, I saw those both in the theater, by the way. Actually, I've seen all of Quentin's movies on the big screen.
To be seen that way.
Yeah, I've seen every one of his movies on the big screen, you know? So excellent. But with Kill Bill, one of the things that's really interesting, and a lot of revenge movies get it wrong. You know, you have the baddies do their deed, and you're supposed to wait for them to get their comeuppance. I like how Quentin writes the villains as being really human.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, when Michael Madsen's comes up in Kill Bill Volume 2, you kind of in some ways feel bad for him, you know?
Yeah, because he's just a guy trying to make his way, and he's, you know, he's not special. There's
Nope.
nothing special that's worth killing him over, except for that she has personal beef and he must die.
Yep. And it was interesting too because in this movie, you know, you like Quentin loves to cast people from movies either he's seen in the video store or whatnot, because you got Larry Bishop in there earlier, you know, which
That's
is
my fault. I'm the
oh
reason.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
because he
And
directed, of course, Hellroy, right? Excuse me.
which is also my fault. So, like it or hate it, it's all my fault. The true story of how that all came to be is that I was hanging out over at Quentin's, and I said something about Larry, and he said, whoa, time out, time out. You're friends with Larry Bishop? And I said, yeah. And he goes, no. You're like friends with Larry Bishop? And I said, yeah. And he goes, whoa, wait. Like you could. And I went, Quentin, I can call him right now. We can call him right now, and you can talk to my friend Larry Bishop. And he's like, oh my God, you have his number? We could call him right now. You have his number? And I'm like, yeah. And it was like, I don't know, like midnight. And so he's like, okay, let's call him. So we call Larry, and Larry's a night owl. I'm a night owl. Quentin's a night owl. So we were all up.
I'm a night owl.
Yeah. So he's like, I put them on the phone together, and they, you know, they're both geeking out, all excited to meet each other. And Quentin said, well, why don't you come over and we'll do a movie night. So a few days later, we go over, and Quentin has set up his movie theater, and he has changed out all the posters. All the one sheets are now for Larry's movies.
Okay.
So when you walk in the theater, all the posters are all of Larry's movies. Then there was a trailer reel that he had cut together that was like 7 trailers of Larry's movies. And then we watched like 2 or 3 of Larry's movies. So imagine how Larry must have felt. I mean, that's pretty special, you know, to have like Larry movie night at the Quentin movie theater. It's just the 3 of us watching, you know.
So what movies did you watch?
Oh,
You watch
God.
Logan's Run?
No. They were all Larry's movies. They were all like
Oh, I must be confusing him with somebody else. I was thinking Logan's.
no,
What am
Larry
I?
Bishop, son of Joey Bishop. He did all these biker movies. He did like Angels in Chains, and you know, like,
Yeah, I got him confused with somebody there. I know who you're talking about, and I don't know why I was thinking Logan's Run, but
well, although I love Logan's Run, great movie.
mhm.
So yeah, so after the movies were over, it was like, I don't know, 5 in the morning or something, and we're sitting around talking about that genre, about biker movies and how they're, you know, a modern day version of Westerns, and why they appeared culturally and what happened with them and where they could go and all that stuff. We're having this big conversation about biker movies.
Mhm.
And Quentin looks at Larry and says, it is your destiny. It is your destiny to write, produce, and direct the greatest biker movie of all time. And so that's how it started. And believe it or not, this is how horrible the movie industry is to navigate.
Uh-huh.
That night we had Quentin, me, Larry, Michael Madsen, because we called him in the middle of the night, and the Weinsteins all on board, and it still took 7 years to get the movie made.
Yeah, I don't think one of the Weinsteins gonna be doing much of that anymore.
That's fine by me.
Yeah, but I'll say one thing though. I'm always on board for Quentin Tarantino movies. Like I said, I've seen them all in the theaters, and always looking forward to seeing his references to other films as well. And excellent. But I loved seeing you as Rocket in that film, and you take such glee in telling poor Bud, played by Michael Madsen, that he's got to clean shitty water up in the washroom. And he seems so fond of the idea.
Yeah, he looks like he wants to punch a wall.
Yep. Yep. But talk about working with Michael Madsen in that scene. Obviously, you've got a friendship with him.
I do. Well, although it wasn't immediate.
Hmm.
I wasn't kidding when I said he hated that scene. He really didn't want to do that scene at all because it makes him look bad. And he's a macho guy. He didn't want to do a scene where there's some girl in panties telling him what to do. And so the truth is that as I was walking in, he was trying to get two of my lines cut, and I only had 5 lines, and
Hmm.
he's trying to get almost half of them cut. And so I I there is a reality happening in that scene of me telling him what to do and me deciding that I'm not going to let him up. Um, and then him having a hard time with me because he couldn't get that scene cut.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would love
Well, no,
to have
it
worked
was
with.
great for the scene. It was perfect for the scene. And the scene, I'll admit, was, when we were shooting it, it was kind of rough. It got a little rough because we're pushing back on each other pretty hard.
Hmm.
But as soon as the shooting was over, he chased me down and was like, I really like you, because I didn't back down. I just kept pushing right back. Everything he did, I just did right back at him. And so he was, as much as he hated it while we were filming it, afterward, he was very impressed that I never backed down. And so, yeah, when we went to go do Hell Ride, by then we were friends and he was used to me and he had been hanging out with me for years and all that. So it was a totally different thing. By then we're able to trust each other, and everything that's happening in Hell Ride is also very organic, but it's coming from this place of, it's a much more laid back scene.
Yeah. What was the other dialogue cut? Do you remember?
Oh, no, I don't. I will tell you,
Okay.
originally I had a 15-page part in Kill Bill as a totally different character in a totally different scene that was never filmed.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And then when that didn't happen, then I was going to have a smaller part, but in the same scene. So I was going to do, like 10 pages in the same scene in a smaller part, and then that didn't happen. And then I was going to do a even smaller part, 5 pages in this other part, and then that didn't happen. And then I ended up with this, 3 lines with Bud. So, by the time when I started, I had this big dream of what was going to happen in the movie for me. And by the time I'm filming it, you can see why when I walked in the door and I saw him trying to cut my lines, I was like, oh, hell no. No, 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 no. I already had enough stuff cut out of this movie and I haven't even filmed yet. So I'm not going to have him cutting stuff before that's it. Enough with the cutting.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, of course, Sid Haig was not in that scene. Did you get to meet him there?
Yes. I mean, he was filming that day and he was on the other side of the bar.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. I think by the time we're shooting, when we shoot me entering, he's in the scene. By the time it's just me and Michael sparring, he's not in the shot, I don't think, anymore.
Okay. Yeah, because we lost him not too long ago, and I've heard all good things about him.
The sweetie.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, Quentin kept you on for Django Unchained, you know. I gotta stay too. Like I just saw when it came out in 2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I gotta say, watching Leonardo DiCaprio in his drunken state called say to this girl goes, "What are you looking at, you ginger hair fucker?" I laugh every time I see
Well,
that.
that's the
It
thing
takes a
about the
slug of
movie, is that there's so much, like, not to spoil anything, but I think the movie's 10 years old. If you hadn't seen it already, you should know. I don't make it to the end of the movie. And my exit scene is
hilarious.
equal parts upsetting and hilarious. Yes, a woman is being killed. But it's hilarious. And it reminds me of the scene in Pulp Fiction when the kid is in the back of the car and the gun accidentally goes off and the kid's head explodes all over the inside of the car. That is awful and hilarious. And you can't stop yourself from laughing before it's already out of your mouth.
Well, it's hilarious because of the reactions out
Right.
of Samuel Jackson and John Travolta, and
But it's also just that you didn't see it coming, like that's
no,
the same thing that happens with my shot, is like nothing can prepare you for it. There's nothing you can prepare you for it.
yeah, and why did it? When you get shot, you just kind of blow away, or did you turn into Mary Poppins at that moment?
He does all of his stunts as practicals. There's nothing mechanical. There's no CGI. Everything is done the same way it would be done in 1922 as it would be done in 2022.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's for real stunts, and I for real did it 6 times.
I found that hilarious. And of course, obviously, you've done Kill Bill Volume 2, so he brought you back in this. And of course, you get to work with Leo DiCaprio, which probably was a charm for you.
Well, it's funny. I actually had already met him when he was a teenager. I I worked one summer as a receptionist at an agency when I was just starting out. I wanted to learn, what is an agency? How does it function? What can it do for you? What can it not do for you? How do you get in? All that stuff. And I thought, well, if I just work a summer at the front desk, I'll learn all that. And I in fact did. And so the agency I was at was Leonardo DiCaprio's agency. And so he and his dad would come in all the time when he was a kid, back when he was on Growing Pains.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was the one that would open his fan mail and sort it and stuff. And honestly, back then he didn't have as much as Jenny Garth and Tracy Gold, who were both also at the same agency. So yeah, and when he came in, he was always a sweet, sweet person. His father also very sweet. They were, very kind, nice people. So I have nothing but fond memories of them. But I do picture him as a little boy. So that helped me when he's playing my little brother, especially when he turned out to be kissing me so much. I really needed to see him as a little boy so that I could take some of the heat out of that situation.
There you go. There you go. There's so many memes now online. You've probably seen a few of Leo from Django Unchained. They'll have
Yeah, I'm
his
in a couple of them.
actually, at the hospital where I work, on one of the nurses' 60th birthday, they had a bunch of pictures on the door. They had a meme of Leo saying something in that face,
Well, he's really remarkable to work with. I have to tell you, one of the great joys of my life was working with him. I would do it again in a heartbeat. He was great, great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
And it's stupid how talented he is.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So talk about working in Django Unchained, because quite a bit different from playing Rocket, and of course
Oh
you had
yeah.
accent and everything.
Oh yeah. Well, that we shot that here in New Orleans, and
Hmm.
it was it was grueling. It was rough. I mean, it's long, long, long days. and it's tough work, both emotionally, physically, you know, it's rough. That said, it was one of the most gratifying, amazing, satisfying moments of my entire career. And I really enjoyed exploring her character, working with the cast and the crew. I mean, it, you know, it was all the best of the best. It's such an honor to be able to work on any of Quentin's movies, because you just know in advance that you're working on something great, probably genius, maybe important, maybe being studied in colleges in the future. You know, like, you know that it's like, you know, it's kind of, it's different than when you just show up for a movie and you have no idea. Like, even if you do a Spielberg movie, you have no idea whether it's going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Quentin's movies, there, you know that it's going to be important. It's going to be part of the discussion of our culture and this time in filmmaking. And, you know, I don't know. It's pretty amazing to work with him.
How funny was Samuel L. Jackson in that movie? Was his
In both as well. So, you know, here's the thing with Kill Bill, we were only making one movie, and then they
mm-hmm.
split it into two movies. And so instead of going to one premiere, we all went to a premiere, and then 6 months later, you know, we went to a crew screening and then a premiere, and then 6 months later we went to another crew screening and another premiere. And then, you know, somewhere in there was the Cannes Fest, and we all went to the Cannes Film Festival, and all, you know, like, it was all broken up into all these different things. So I only shot Kill Bill for half a day, but I was involved in that movie for almost 3 years. And so the people involved in that film sort of, you know, Quentin creates like a family environment, and that might change now that he has his own family, but yeah, he created a family of players. And so, you know, you kind of, I don't know, it was our social life for like 3 years.
You know what's funny? I'd interviewed Dick Miller about 5 months before he passed away, and of course he played Monster Joe in Pulp Fiction, which you see as a cut scene. He went to the premiere of it not knowing his scene was cut.
Right.
You know, but nonetheless, he enjoyed the film nonetheless anyway. You know, but but you have a few other films too. You were in Now You See Me.
A lot of fun.
Talk about you hypnotized.
I was hypnotized by Woody Harrelson, who I worked with again when we did True Detective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got to work with Woody twice. I like working with some of the same people over and over. You know, it gives you oh, you don't have the first day of school jitters the same way. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's there's something easier about it, about knowing the people you're going to be working with.
Absolutely. And of course, let's talk about Hellride, you know, since all of this is coming down to a combination of a lot of familiar faces. I love that. So, I have not seen Hellride, so I need to
Oh,
ask. Yeah, well, when I was doing research on you, for a moment there, I was wondering, is this an actual movie? You got a lot of Quentin's pals in there. Did he do a movie that I didn't know about? But it says directed by Larry Bishop, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's making sense now. So, do you play a biker chick in this?
I play Danny, who owns a bar, Danny's Inferno. And sadly, a lot of my story is cut from that. I in Django, I had a love story with Walton Goggins and a love story with Christoph Waltz, and those were all pretty much cut. And in Hellride, I had a love story with Eric Balfour, and this whole elaborate thing, lots of scenes, riding on motorcycles and all this stuff, all cut. All that's left is a scene with me behind the bar, and Eric comes in at some point and we act like we don't know each other. So if you're a moviegoer, we just don't know each other in the movie, because you don't know that we're acting like we don't know each other, but really we're boyfriend and girlfriend. That's all been cut. So yeah, I mean, even though I produced the movie, I wasn't in charge of that final edit. So I wasn't in charge of any of the editing, actually. So that's that.
What is it with people cutting your scenes?
Well, no, it's not mine. It's not mine. Like in Django Unchained, there's 45 minutes of Leonardo DiCaprio, Sam Jackson, Jamie Foxx. I mean, we're all on the cutting room floor. It's not specific to me. It's specific to Quentin. When Quentin makes movies, they always are wanting to cut them shorter because, you know, they want to sell more popcorn. With Hellride, I wasn't in on the argument over why it kept getting shorter and shorter, but I don't agree with the choices that were made about making it so short. I think we could have, I think it feels longer if you make it too short. So I would have added back a few scenes, but I wasn't in charge of that. And yes, it is a lot of Quentin's toy box. We had David Carradine and Dennis Hopper in a fringe jacket on a motorcycle, an Indian. So that felt like, you know, Easy Rider Redux. That was
Yep.
awesome. Eric Balfour, who all? Michael Madsen. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people in that movie. Vinnie Jones. Yeah. And then there's a few people who, you know, obviously David Carradine and Dennis Hopper have passed away, but also Francesco Quinn, who was the son of Anthony Quinn. He was also in the movie, has also passed. You know, it's kind of a time capsule now because it has so many, like almost their last performance.
Mm-hmm. So what do you have coming up now, what that you can talk about?
Well, I have a couple of interesting things. First of all, I recur on Queen Sugar, which is probably not the same crowd as your audience, but
Actually, I must confess, my television's set up to watch my Blu-rays. I don't, yeah, so I'm a little out of the loop on that.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's Oprah Winfrey and Ava DuVernay's like family drama set in Louisiana. And I think it's spectacular, but I am biased. I mean, I've been recurring in it for years, but also I'm biased because it's about Louisiana families in a farming environment. And of course, I'm going to be partial to that. That said, it's like This Is Us, but for Black families. It's a great show, I think. And it's one of those ones that every week you're like, I'm not gonna cry, and then you cry. That I play in a sponsor, you know, a Narcotics Anonymous sponsor to one of the main players. And I am coming back just for one little moment to finish out the character in the final season, and that'll be in episode 6. And then I also have a movie that is in post-production called Off-Ramp Juggalo Road. And that, do you know what a juggalo is?
Yeah, I've heard about the insane clown posse and stuff like that. Yeah, so I know the term, definitely.
Well, I had to do a fair amount of research that I could, you know, legitimately pull off somebody that devotes themselves, because those people are devoted. So, yeah, that movie, I'm just in the first 5 minutes, sort of kicking off the film. It's I every once in a while I get to teach the graduate program at University of New Orleans, UNO, and I teach the graduate filmmakers how to work with actors. And this is one of my former students. It's her first thing her first feature that she's producing. And she's won a bunch of awards for her shorts. So I'm excited to see, you know, I'm very proud of her. And so of course I was excited to be a part of this and help open, as she said, legitimize the movie by being in the first 5 minutes. So that's a lot of fun. I'm working on a documentary right now with another of my former students, which is great. And an organization called VC Pora, which is a nonprofit that is involved in preserving the French Quarter in New Orleans as a neighborhood that is sustainable. And so it's a documentary about making sure we find a balance between tourism and the neighborhood, you know. And So that's another thing. And then I'm an author, so I always have books coming out, and I just put out a book called Writing Unblocked: How I Went from Writing one book in 20 years to 5 books in 4 years. And it's, yeah, I feel, you know how when people want to save you, like, oh, you're saved, that kind of thing. I never felt religious about anything. I never felt the desire to save anybody. After I wrote this book, I feel like I can save you. I can save you because I figured out how I got a process now, a totally repeatable process that you don't even have to be a good writer. You just, have to follow a couple of directions. And it's how to write a book efficiently and make it from this big, unwieldy, scary thing into a totally doable thing.
What's it called again?
It's called Writing Unblocked. If you want, I can, if you want, I can set up a coupon for your audience and get them 20% off. If you'd like, I can set that up for you.
Sure. I would, guess I was going to ask how I can get a signed photo, but you know what? The signed book like that, I used to write when I was young, but I was always ripping off stuff I saw in the.
That one's an ebook, so I can't really sign it because it's an ebook. But I do have seven other books that you could get signed.
You can't sign the ebook, huh? They haven't figured that one out.
You asked me earlier, you started by asking me what's the weirdest thing you signed. I don't know how to even begin to sign an ebook. So
you know what? I still read physical books,
I know.
Actually,
well, I have 7 of those.
It's interesting. Last night, I was doing a terminal clean with 2 other workers in the hospital. I was walking by, and it was, of course, the overnight shift. And you got some nurses that are sitting outside patients' room. It's always funny seeing a nurse read, and I always am tempted to say, "You're part of a dying breed."
Right?
Yeah, because I still read. I've never done anything I never read an ebook. I just, if the book's out there, I order it.
This is my first time writing one that's just as an ebook. I've always been able to make an ebook of my hard book, my paperbacks.
Mhm.
And I think everybody should make it available to people who want to have an e-reader. But this is my first time writing the ebook without ever writing the actual paper book. And the advantage is that I can put a lot of graphics, a lot of photos and diagrams and things to help people understand what I'm talking about. And then the other thing is that I created a 6-video course to go with it called Creating Characters. That's like all about brainstorming and all the ways to develop characters that are 3-dimensional and help you move your story forward, and are highly detailed without having stupid details that don't contribute anything. And I'm really excited about that too, because that's sort of like having me coach you along on how to make your characters like come to life. So I will set up a coupon. It'll be Gorilla Podcast, all in caps, 2 words, Gorilla Podcast, all in caps, 2 words. And you can go to my website to link to the Samcart page that gives you the book and the creating characters.
Okay, here's an interesting question. Because you only see Rocket on the screen in Kill Bill Volume 2 for a short time. In your mind, what are you thinking about to make her a 3-dimensional character? What is your thoughts on Rocket?
Well, the biggest thing I had to do with Rocket was to ask myself, how did I get here? I didn't want to play the game of like, this could never happen to me. I would never end up as a stripper in the middle of the desert. I'm, too smart and too educated, and that would never happen to me. I don't like to judge my characters. Instead, I like to justify. Don't judge, justify. That's in my acting book.
Okay.
But yeah, so what I first had to do is, instead of asking myself, how does a person end up here? Ask myself, how would I with my intelligence and my, what would have to happen? What kind of decisions would have had to come out differently? What would have had to impact my life differently? And of course, the easiest answer was I followed a guy. I followed the wrong guy to the desert and I never left.
Okay. Okay. Because I always loved Rocket when you appear on screen, so I had to ask that since you're about creating characters. It's like I was wondering if you ever thought about that with her,
Oh no, I spent so much work on my characters. I mean, in my acting book, No Small Parts, which is KNOW, No Small Parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of that book. I have a foreword by Richard Dreyfuss. It's endorsed by Kevin Costner and Reginald Hudlin, lots of people, Adam Rifkin. But in any case, I, in that book, have a one line that's "Your martini, sir." And I spend pages and pages and pages breaking down "Your martini, sir." I have literally hundreds of questions for you to ask yourself about "Your martini, sir."
Oh, wow.
People ask, oh, is acting about memorizing? Oh, I could never memorize all those lines. I'm like, it has nothing to do with memorizing lines. You could forget all the lines and still be a genius. You could get all the lines right and be terrible. It's not about the lines. It's about understanding the character and the moment and your job in the story. Like, are you the villain? Are you the comic relief? Are you, what are you what are you there for? And so it's about what you want as a character, what you want from the other people in the scene, and specifics, like really, like "Your martini, sir" is very different if you're a waiter at a black tie event.
Mm-hmm.
And you are giving the martini to the CEO of a company where you're trying to get a job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then "Your martini, sir" is about trying to get that CEO to pay attention to you. And
Look at this. Look who came.
kitty bit.
This is Skittles.
Hi, Skittles.
You have no idea how many of my guests love it when I stick my cat. He did come around. He just woke up. He said he heard all this talk about martinis and
Well, yeah. So, that's a very different moment. If you're like a guy trying to get a job from the congressman who you're serving a martini to at a black tie event, then if you're let's say you're a seductress in your hand and it's full of poison and you're handing it to the guy you're trying to seduce into drinking it, "Your martini, sir," is a totally different moment. So, like there's a million "Your martini, sirs" that are dependent on the circumstance, the character, who they're delivering that line to, and what they want from them. And that's the work, is figuring all that out.
okay, you're brilliant.
I like to think so sometimes.
I Quentin had told Howard Stern he wants to do 10 movies, which would make one more left. I hope he uses you in it.
Well, now I'm going to point out that because of things beyond his control, Kill Bill is actually 2 movies, and so he has already delivered 10 movies technically.
Yeah.
So he
But
owes us nothing.
yeah, but he'll do one more and
Well, he will or he won't. Look, right now he's making movies of little children running around, sucking on their toes and eating things. I mean, he has babies in the house now. Remember babies? That's way more fascinating to film than Sam Jackson. So, I'm
I
sure.
don't know. What if Sam Jackson sucks on his toes and
Now you might
sucks
have.
sucks on his toes and says "motherfucker" a lot?
It's the sequel to Snakes on a Plane.
There you go. There
No,
you
but
go.
he owes us nothing, and he's writing books, which I'm very excited about, because
Mhm.
then there's no page limit. He can write whatever he wants, however he wants, whenever he wants. And he hasn't said he won't do TV. We now have the right kind of TV for him to work in. He could work with movie stars. He could do 2 or 3 episode arcs so that it's not, you know, he could take a 6-hour story and turn it into 3 episodes or 4 episodes. So I just because he may or may not make another film, but he will be a storyteller till he dies.
Well, I love his storytelling. I got to say that, you know. And let's say he doesn't make another film. Well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's not a bad way to go out as far as I go. So
It was an opus, and it was his love letter to filmmaking. It was his love letter to films in general, and really he owes us nothing. He should have gotten the Academy Award for that. I'm biased, but I'm right.
mhm. Oh, he
And
should look. He's on the same list as Alfred Hitchcock and Stanley Kubrick.
yeah, he's being
Directors, yeah, directors I should have won, but haven't. Look how long it took them to give one to Martin Scorsese's.
well, Steven Spielberg, you know, I mean, honestly, they're just, I don't know what they wait for on these things, but you know, it was right that it would be for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That was the right one to give it to him for. And I don't know. I was at a TV station and they were filming me watching it. I'm wearing a golden dress and, you know, and I'm watching the presentation and they have the camera right on my face and they're hoping to get me, you know, gleeful and I immediately, a tear just ran right down my face and I was so angry. I was so angry. So the tear runs down my face. They cut to commercial. I'm like, thank God, because I just started cussing. I'm in the studio in this ball gown and I am cussing up a blue streak. I was so angry. It just seemed
Yeah.
wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you have any charities that you want to plug and promote on here that you're passionate about?
What a wonderful question.
Yeah.
I have 2 things here in New Orleans that are fun and special to me. One is Rain Tree Children and Family Services does foster children placement and care with the families here in New Orleans. And they have a group home for teenage girls because it's very hard to place teenage girl foster children. And so I am very pro that cause and love that there's somebody that's created this safety net for those teenage girls that just fall through every crack. And so that's meaningful to me. But the one that I'm very much involved in is I'm a part of a nonprofit called the Pussyfooters that is over 100 women over the age of 30. And we dress head to toe, pink and orange and sometimes silver and white combat boots. We wear pink corsets and white combat boots. That's our uniform. And we dance in the Mardi Gras parades. And we perform or lend a hand at about 50 events per year. But then one day a year, we have our own event called Blush Ball. And we raise money for a charity here, or, you know, a nonprofit here called Metro. Oh, wait, they changed their name recently. Now I think it's Metro Center for, oh Lord, it used, whatever it is, it's Metro and it's domestic violence. They serve people whose lives have been affected by domestic violence. And every year for Blush Ball, we raise usually anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 in one day.
Wow.
Yes, and I'm very proud of our efforts in doing that. I'm very proud of us for doing that. Yeah, it's like a wedding every year. You know, every year we have to spend a lot of time getting that event ready. But the night of the event, we pull off a heck of a party, a really great party,
Wow.
and just raise all this money.
You know what? I'm you seem like you have a good sense of humor, so I'm going to throw a suggestion out. And this is something I've thrown out to many of my guests, and I've had some luck with it. But if that is your big charity of choice, I'd be willing to make a donation to it. Just send me the link to the web page.
Okay.
I'd make a donation to it. and return if you did the Doubtfire Face Challenge for suicide and depression awareness.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, unfortunately, when we lost, you remember the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Yeah.
I just lost my dad in April to ALS, and after an 8-year battle with it. Well, after the Ice Bucket Challenge, we unfortunately lost Robin Williams. And one came out in honor of him afterwards called the Doubtfire Face Challenge. And what it involves is you take a pie in the face and you nominate 3 people. And what I would do is I would make a donation to the charity of my guest's choice. In return, that they do a video of the Doubtfire Challenge, and they could nominate 3 people if they wish.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm actually going to have you choose Raintree, the Children and Family Services.
Okay.
And you are clever for figuring out a way, but you are not the first person to figure out how to get a pie in my face, because I have a student, my former student that I'm doing this documentary with, clever boy. He asked me, he asked me to do a short film, and I was like, of course, I would love to work on a short film with you. And he gave me the script, and I'm reading along, and at the end I see pie in the face, and I'm like, so my former student has figured out a way to, and of course we did 5 takes, 5 pies, 5 banana cream pies to the face. So yes, I will happily take a pie to the face and nominate some other people to take pies to the face.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the industry involved, and I've had a lot of my guests that have done this, and I even threw it out to some people on Actually, Leah Thompson did one on Cameo, because one of my other guests suggested that to me, and I was like, what a great idea, because then they still get money. You're on Cameo. You want me to throw it out to you on Cameo so you get that little extra money? I don't mind doing that. I don't mind doing that.
Well, we'll figure it out. We'll get it done.
Yeah, I'd be very, very happy to have you do that. And like I said, I'll make the donation to your cause. Do you mind if I add you on Facebook?
No, and I also have a public page that anybody can join, that I try and keep things abreast, because my personal page is not actually very well maintained, because I really only put things that are personal, whereas the public page, I actually make a little bit of an effort to make sure it's updated and stuff.
Yeah. No, you kidding me? I have a lot of my guests on Facebook, but again, I get you, because you don't have time to attribute to everybody, but it's always easy access.
I just don't know. I can't get to everything, and so I try and
I agree.
prioritize the people who are, following me because they're following my career. If there's something going on with my career, they should know. I should let them know. Whereas if what I did today was, like, I just redid my wreath on my door, and I have my new Houdat wreath, which is what I do for football season. And so eventually I'll take a picture of me in a black and gold shirt with my new Houdat wreath, and I'll put that on Facebook. That probably won't be on the public page. That will be for my friends and family, because, we're all either all rooting for the same football team or not. But on my public page, they don't care what.
I do.
There's people from all over the planet on that page. So now on Twitter, I'll do both, because Twitter, you can do both. And Twitter, I try and maintain better, because Twitter, I do both personal things and professional things. But yeah, with Facebook, one's professional and one's personal, and I kind of don't mix them that much.
So is this a rocket reef?
Well, I mean, it's a Saints Houdat wreath that every year, I suppose most people have wreaths so that they'll have it for Christmas. I never have a Christmas wreath. It stays It stays a black and gold Houdat wreath all the way through the end of football season. And then it converts to a Mardi Gras wreath. And so then it's a purple, green, and gold. Yeah. And then it stays that until St. Patty's. Then it's a St. Patty's wreath for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then it goes to spring with like daffodils and all that. And then it goes to summer with crawfish and very, very high maintenance with the wreaths. But yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? Downtown, and I don't know if this house does it anymore, but when I was young, there was one street we'd drive up, and there was one house that had this stuffed owl in the window. Every time you drive by it, it's wearing a different outfit.
Oh my.
You know, I think it was just a stuffed toy or something. You know, I don't think it was a real owl, but they'd have it. You know, if it was St. Patrick's, it'd be wearing green. If it was Christmas, it'd be wearing a Santa hat.
Oh, see,
So,
I would have to make a joke about it's an owl. That would have to be a Houdat.
yeah. Absolutely. I'll message you on Facebook about the website to where to make that donation. I'd be happy to do that.
Great.
Yeah. And you know, if you're open for a Doubtfire Face challenge, by all means,
I can take a pie to the face. I can do it.
There you go. There you go. So perfect.
Well, and I have a lot of friends around here who are you know, the kind of people that look here when the Ice Bucket Challenge happened here, we all did it because I don't know how well you know the Saints football team, but one of our most beloved members was a guy named Steve Gleason, and Steve suffers ALS, and he and his wife did a documentary that really shows people his life, his world, what it's like for them as a married couple, how it is for him to be a dad, how, you know, what is it like to be a heroic athlete and now only be able to, you know, be in a wheelchair. And, you know, it's a terrific story because he's a terrific person. He really could have taken this any which way he wanted to. And he's just heroic. And we have a statue to him out in front of the dome. That's the moment that he blocks the punt. Okay, so we came back. Okay, Katrina sends everybody away. The dome is shut down. It's all terrible. The football team has to be rebuilt, and they're not even in our city. They're in Texas. Finally, they return to the dome for the big first game. We're playing our arch rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, and Steve Gleason throws his body, blocks the punt. It gets run in for a touchdown, and it changes everything. And it's the moment that lets us know that we can dare to hope for the Super Bowl 3 years later. So it's this moment that was labeled the moment of rebirth. And so there's a statue out in front of the dome of Steve Gleason throwing his body over that punt, and it's called the Rebirth statue.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
my father battled ALS for 8 years, and he succumbed to it back in April. And
I'm
so
very sorry to hear that. It's a horrifying disease. It's really a lot for the whole family.
yeah, it's hard to believe he's gone, but I saw him the morning before he passed, you know, so I got to say my piece and whatnot. So my younger brother did a lot of caregiving for them. So
Yeah, that's rough. It's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and Tim Green, who was an Atlanta Falcon, as much as I don't like the Falcons, I will admit that Tim Green, who was an Atlanta Falcon, he also now has ALS, and he's another one of those people that was super active. He's an author. He became an attorney. Like, he's got all going on, and you know, now he's having to learn to live a different way.
I don't know. I hope I don't wish it on anybody.
No.
No, but
Well,
Dad,
and pie in the face thing is for a suicide thing.
yep, suicide and depression.
Oh,
Yep.
so depression. Well, good. Then, yeah, that makes sense because obviously Robin Williams really battled that. He very much struggled with that.
I battled with not suicide, but depression times in my life. Actually, I got an actress friend who I right now periodically will text, see how she's doing. But she lost her stepfather, who she was really close to, and she's been dealing with depression big time. And I check in with her every now and again, to see how she's doing. And she never complains about. She says, never feel that you're overstepping your boundaries with your text, because she said she needs it, because she knows I've beaten it a couple of times, depression. So I told her that you will get on the other side. It's just a matter of when,
Well, during COVID, it became epidemic. First you had the pandemic, then you had this epidemic of depression, and alcohol abuse spiked, and domestic abuse spiked, and I mean a lot of bad behavior around being trapped in homes with people, or being trapped alone. And so yeah, I know our country is suffering a mental health crisis that we're sort of battling right now, and in particular with young people, because older people know, when you're older, that doesn't matter how dark it gets, there is a break in the clouds at some point. Now maybe you want to stick around for it, or maybe you don't, and people who are suicidal might decide, I don't want to stick around, and wait for the next good day. But at least they know there's one coming down the road. Older people know there's always a good day somewhere. You just might not want to wait around for it anymore. But young people don't even know that happens. They don't know that it all gets okay again, that life's like a roller coaster. And when you're heading down, you can't even see that, you can't even picture that this would be in front of you, this high spot. All you see is just, I'm going down, I'm going down. But it always does go back up again. It always does. You just have to stick around for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I actually worked through the pandemic because I'm a cleaner. So
Right.
I was in the front lines of that the whole time. Never got COVID, knock on wood.
Me
But
neither. No,
yeah.
knocking on everything, knocking
No.
on everything.
Yeah, but I do have my vaccines and stuff, and um,
I'm terrified of shots. I hate shots more than anything. I'm one of those people that at the dentist, I go commando. I would rather have the pain than the shot, but I got all my shots for this.
you want me to
All.
tell you something funny? When I was a little boy, I was petrified of needles.
We don't use that word, shots, shots, shots. We don't use that word.
Okay, I was petrified of shots.
Okay.
It's funny, this year I had to go for my doing a physical. It's funny how turning 50, it's like I still don't like getting them, but now I'm not petrified, just going in. Okay.
Okay, well, I don't want to talk about it. It's very hard for me. Just because I got them all doesn't mean it was easy for me. It was very hard for me. The point is, my point in saying that is, even people who are afraid of getting shots, this one is to save you from dying. Yeah, so I went ahead and got all of them, because I don't, today 350 people are going to die. And that's because things are going really well right now. Like I lost too many people. I just watched this disease was just brutal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But on a happier note, I'm so honored to have you come on here today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Like I said, Django Unchained kill. I gotta say, for a few moments you're on screen, I gotta say, when I see Rocket on screen, you take my breath away.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, you're lovely in Django Unchained too. You're just character's a little more snitty.
Well, yeah, she owns people, so she's not exactly all good. I mean, honestly, it's funny that the stripper is a better person than the plantation, sister. But it's true. The stripper, she's just doing her job. Whereas the plantation woman, she is living on the backs of others' labors.
Yeah. But you made one hell of an exit in that film.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I had no idea that wasn't in the original script. In the original script, we all died outside.
Oh,
So, yeah, actually, if you want to know the original script, the comic book series, there's a comic book series.
did not know that.
There's a comic book series of Django, and it's done by like 5 or 6 different artists. So each comic book is drawn differently with a different style. And so I got to be drawn in like 3 different styles. It was really cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was done before we shot the movie. So it's done from the original script. So you get to see the original ending.
So you get to skip off into the limelight and live?
I still die. I still die. I just die a different way.
Oh,
I die outside, and there's this sort of like a sad, funny joke that Django squares off with me, and he says, "Somebody give her a gun," because he doesn't want to shoot me unarmed. And so one of the the horse riders that would always round up all the overseers. Okay, so one of the overseers comes over and hands me a gun, and then he looks at Django and says, "Can I at least cock it for her?" Because it's obvious that I have no idea how to use this thing. So it's really just, I'm going to hold this while he shoots me. So I'm armed, but I'm not dangerous.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the ending he had though was pretty funny though, because when you just fly off screen like that, people in the audience laughed.
Oh, they are so, I mean, I did too. We all were like, "Whoa!" Because it all happened so fast. Even when I knew it was coming, I still was, "Whoa!" So, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. And then followed by Samuel Jackson's rant, which he's always good at.
No, he's a ranter. He's a ranter.
Oh,
So,
jeepers, even in
and
the King, huh?
he does get to improv. Very few people in the history of a Tarantino movie have ever improv, and he's allowed to improv.
Well, even in Kingsman, I am laughing out loud at the stuff that comes out of his mouth.
No, and he's a fun guy to be around too. He's a funny person.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Laura, I am so happy that I had the pleasure and honor of interviewing you today. I'm going to keep watch because I would love to have you back at some point. Maybe next year, and keep an eye on what you're doing. But we'll keep in touch because I'm going to need the email address or the webpage address to the charity so I can make
Yes.
that donation, because I'd be happy to
Yes,
do
well, and
that.
I'll get you all the links and everything. But if any of your audience goes to my website, lauracayouette.com, there's links in there to all of my, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that, but also links to the ebook I talked about. Actually, there's links to all my books. So yeah. And there's
Absolutely.
videos on there to tell you what some of them are about and all that. So it's fun.
I'll have to subscribe to your YouTube because that's
And
where
lots of,
yeah, I'll have to do that. But anyway, before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
sure.
Yeah, just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Hi, I'm Laura Cayouette, and you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Yes, folks, and you know what? She's still beautiful. She's still stunning, and she's ageless.
Thank you very much.
You know,
I see the age, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the way I'm aging is okay by me.
oh, my cat still loves me regardless of how I age. He says as long as you have treats, he doesn't care what I look like.
Look, you could fight a tidal wave, but the bottom line is gravity is going to win. So I'm letting it have its way with me, and we'll figure out where it all lands. So
There you go. There you go. Well, you know what? This was a lot of fun. And I'm going to talk to those promoters on here for these events and tell them you're dying to come up here and do our conventions.
Nicole.
I'm
All
gonna tell
right.
I'm gonna tell them. I say get some of those heat blankets on.
Oh my gosh. I'm so bad at the cold, but I wouldn't mind going another trip. I am always interested in seeing more of the world.
Look at me. I'm short sleeved here. You know. I'm.
But you guys are crazy. Okay. This is what the people in Colorado told me. The people in Colorado were like, come in July. It's hot. It's July. I went July 4th weekend. Yes, in the daytime, it was 75 for July 4th weekend. Do you know what it was that night? It
Warm.
snowed. It snowed. It snowed that night on 4th of July. It snowed.
Did that for you.
And
Did you?
what kind of suitcase do you pack for days that begin at 75 and end with snow? How you pack for that is, I just don't know how to do it.
I hear a lot of funny stories about people from Canada getting off a plane in California, and California's offer them clothes. They show up
Yeah.
there, t-shirts and shorts. Oh,
Yeah. Well, so, but yes, I do like seeing more of the world. So I'm always open to seeing a place I've never seen before.
there you go. There you go. We'll make that happen at some point.
Go.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, thank you so much. This has been an honor and a privilege for me. And yeah,
You. I've really had a lot of fun.
I did too, you know. My apologies, I ran a little late, but I'm glad we're able to do this. Um, I'm all over the place, but I actually got two more interviews tonight too, and then an overnight shift. So,
Yeah.
mhm. Oh, I'm looking
Yes.
forward to it all.
I don't always get to do a lot of coaching because of my schedule, but I have a client who I've had for years who I'm working with later. So I'm very excited about that. I don't get to see him enough. He's a terrific client and we've been working together for years and he just got exciting news. So I'm excited to hear from him.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Awesome. Awesome. And if Quentin does another movie, hopefully we'll have you in it.
You never know. I mean, he does always fish in the same pond. So
I'm actually hoping that he works with Emma Stone. I'd like to see Emma Stone in a Tarantino movie.
like I said, I don't know that he'll ever make another movie, but whether he does or does not, I think he's not done storytelling. So, we'll see what he does next, whether it's television or whatever it is that he does. We'll see. We'll see. I'm just
Absolutely.
honored to have been part of any of it and to have had two of those potentially 10 movies already under my belt is remarkable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to let you go about your day, and I'm going to get prepped for my next interview. And thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you. And I'll send you all that stuff.
Absolutely. God bless you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.